The next night, you worked that awesome match you were bragging about with Brian Pillman, this time at the famed Dorton Arena in Raleigh.
Yeah.
It's your first singles match with a talented young wrestler on the rise named Flying Brian Pillman. You go full tilt, 8 minutes with Brian, and you're right. We turned out a match that was excellent in quality and intensity. Terry Funk was doing the color commentary on the show, and if you listen closely, you can hear the Funkers' admiration shining through. Is this one of the first times you would have met Terry?
Yeah. I think I saw him backstage. Maybe the night before, but he did the Saturday night show or Saturday after with Chris Cruz,
Yep.
And I thought they were a really good team. And I just want to acknowledge when I talk about the color people that Kevin Sullivan was really interesting in that he was such a character, but when he was doing color, he kind of put that on the back burner and he got the matches over.
Yes.
Teddy Long was good. Michael Hayes was good. I'm talking about people specifically putting over my character, but in general, they were all good. And I had JR, I had Shivani, where Shivani came back in, I think, a year later. But I had all these people who took a definite interest in my character, and that even extended to guys like Bob Smith, who wrote for PWI in an era when they made up the stories. But the articles were really good, and I was lucky in that the character worked and that people took an interest in it and allowed them, to have some fun in a way that it was like they believed in the character. They didn't have to hyperbolize.
I want to talk about Terry Funk, but first I want to touch on the PWI thing because, as you said, a lot of times those quote-unquote after mags, they would, wink, wink, work an interview. So they just create a false conversation and attribute quotes to you that you never said.
Right.
I'm curious, was there ever anything that was written that annoyed you that thought, I would never say that, my character would never do that?
Yeah, I think there was a WCW interview where everything, whoever was doing the interview, and I hope I don't hurt anyone's feelings, was writing it out. For all I know, it could have been me feeding into something that wasn't a complete work, if that makes sense. But regardless, there was an interview where I was like, these are some really lame answers. Yeah. These are some really lame answers. I just, for example, I remember, I don't know if it was Bill Apter or someone else, had me like at an airport, and they were like taking photos of me as I came out on the actual luggage carousel. And it was like, I looked at it, I was like, that's not really where I want the character to be. Or I think there was maybe a Napolitano magazine or maybe an Apter where they had a photo of me in an abandoned cabin. They called it the Jack Shack, like where I lived like by myself. Like, so there was that tendency, maybe there was even one with me with a little hay, and to make it like a countrified or redneck character, which is not what it turned out to be, but you're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what hits. And luckily, a lot of it stuck.
You spend a lot of time at the Jack Shack?
It was the only time I ever.
We need a Jack Shack t-shirt.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.